We're not going to join the finance minister in patting himself on the back while millions of Canadians are lined up at food banks. Let's talk about the economy. GDP shrank in Q2. The finance minister should know that, but we haven't seen a budget from him, but we've seen all of the warning signals, and so has the parliamentary budget officer, who said that it's very alarming what's happening and that something is going to break. But it's already broken for Canadians. They can't afford to feed themselves, feed their families.
I don't think he's been seeing the evolution of the Canadian economy, Madam Chair. Madam Speaker, I have some good news for the member. The Canadian economy is growing, Madam Speaker. I think he should be thanking the plan of this government, Madam Speaker.
Speaker, I don't know what the minister's rejoicing about, because prices are skyrocketing, food banks are overwhelmed, and families are skipping meals. Meanwhile, the parliamentary budget officer called this government's finances, quote, shocking, quote, unsustainable, and warned, quote, something is going to break.
I recently spoke with a young father in Spencerville, and he has a trade, he has a job, and he has a young family, but he still has to count on a productive deer hunt this fall in order to provide a high-protein diet for his family. Now, why? The inflationary policies of this Liberal Prime Minister continue to drive the prices of food at the grocery store higher and higher. Why can't this Prime Minister see that his policies are making things worse for Canadians who are just trying to get by?
Madam Speaker, I have some good news for my colleagues. I respect him a lot, but I don't think he's been seeing the evolution of the Canadian economy, Madam Chair. Madam Speaker, I have some good news for the member. The Canadian economy is growing, Madam Speaker. I think he should be thanking the plan of this government, Madam Speaker, to make sure that we can grow the economy. We invest in the future, and on the budget in November 4th. I know the Conservatives are waiting for November 4th.
Can we have some order to listen to what the minister is saying? The Honourable Minister has 5 seconds to finish.
Madam Speaker, you know when it's good news, the Conservatives don't want to hear it, but Canadians sure want to hear about good news.
We're not going to join the finance minister in patting himself on the back while millions of Canadians are lined up at food banks. Let's talk about the economy. GDP shrank in Q2. The finance minister should know that, but we haven't seen a budget from him, but we've seen all of the warning signals, and so has the parliamentary budget officer, who said that it's very alarming what's happening and that something is going to break. But it's already broken for Canadians. They can't afford to feed themselves, feed their families. They're worried about the cold coming and not being able to heat their homes. It's the policies of this Liberal Prime Minister that are vaporizing any supposed savings that they're going to have from tax cuts. Why won't they?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I know the Conservatives are eager to see the budget and hopefully vote for it, because, Madam Speaker, indeed, we need to change course in this country. We need to spend less so we can invest more, Madam Speaker. That's what we're proposing to Canadians, generational investment in our future, Madam Speaker, to make sure that we build the most resilient economy in the G7, that we build jobs across this country, Madam Speaker, that we build the future that our children are wanting for this nation, Madam Speaker. The Conservatives should be rejoicing, Madam Speaker, that they have a government on this side that thinks about all Canadians and will grow this economy.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Wood.
Madam Speaker, I don't know what the minister's rejoicing about, because prices are skyrocketing, food banks are overwhelmed, and families are skipping meals. Meanwhile, the parliamentary budget officer called this government's finances, quote, shocking, quote, unsustainable, and warned, quote, something is going to break. Every dollar this Liberal Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians. When will this Prime Minister stop his money printing deficits that drive inflation and admit that his broken promises have left Canadians hungry?
Madam Speaker, I don't know what the Conservatives are reading or listening, but they should be listening to the good news that we have. The economy grew in July, Madam Speaker. They should be rejoicing. I'm sure they're going to put that in the householders to tell their constituents that the plan of this Liberal government is working, Madam Speaker. And I'm sure they're going to talk about the November 4th budget, Madam Speaker. I can even send them some great infographics to inform their constituents. We lower tax for Canadians. We make sure we remove GST for first-time home buyer. We remove the carbon tax, Madam Speaker. There's so many good news they can put in the householder. I'm going to...
The Honourable Member.
Madam Speaker, it seems that the only thing new about this government is the way that they avoid responsibility. Yesterday, the parliamentary budget officer said, and I quote, "As anyone who's managed a household budget knows, at the end of the month, when you don't have enough money to pay your bills, something is going to break." Well, let me tell you what's breaking. It's the morale of families who are going hungry. Beef up 33%, soup up 26%, grapes up 24%, and a projected 4 million visits to Toronto food banks. The Prime Minister claimed to be an economic expert, yet his broken promises had doubled the deficit and driven up food prices. When will he admit his fiscal failures are starving families of hope?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the economy is growing, and we saw the last numbers, the GDP growing in July, and meanwhile interest rates are being lowered. So good news. Meanwhile, my colleagues should know, because many Conservative voters agree with it, we cut taxes on the middle class. We were able also to cut taxes on first-time homebuyers, and we also cut the carbon tax. So since so many Conservative voters are in favor, and so many, of course, of voters in general, please just support the government's agenda. Thank you.
The parliamentary budget officer called our finances, quote, very alarming, shocking, unsustainable. He warned, quote, if you don't change, something will break. And it already has. Every dollar this Liberal Prime Minister spends is coming straight out of Canadians' pockets, wrecking our finances and driving up the cost of food. He said he would be judged by the grocery prices. Well, Canadians are being crushed at the checkout. Will this Prime Minister end patting himself in the back and end his reckless spending by doubling the deficit, or will he keep punishing families for his failed...
The Honourable...
The members opposite are quick to point to government spending as a cause of food inflation, but the Bank of Canada cut the interest rates last week because they actually understand economics. We are focused on affordability every day. That's why we cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. That's why we are massively increasing the supply of homes. And that's why we're building major projects that are going to create tens of thousands of good jobs for Canadians. Canadians voted for solutions, Mr. Speaker, not Conservative slogans.